Hi everyone, this is example 9 from chapter 15 in your student packet, and hopefully it looks very similar to a problem that we did from chapter 14 where we found a confidence interval. So this is the one about the parking garage where we had a sample size of 44 and we had a population or a sample mean of 126 and a sample standard deviation of 15. And we had this consultant who said that the parking garage would make on average $130 a day. So in this case, it says to conduct a two-tailed one sample t-test using a significance level of 0.01. So we're going to start by writing our hypotheses. The alternative hypothesis to conduct a two-tailed test means that we're saying that the mean is not equal to what this consultant is claiming. Whenever the alternative hypothesis uses a not equal to, that's a two-tailed test, regardless of what type of test it is. The null hypothesis, remember, always uses the equals sign, and this is, in this case, is $130. So we're going to go to stat, tests, and we're going to choose the t-test, which I think is number 2. And, sorry, let me find it here. So your mu sub 0, that's the value for the null hypothesis, is 130. The sample mean is 126. The sample standard deviation is 15. The sample size is 44, and we are looking to see if the sample is not equal to the null hypothesis. And when we put these values in, we get a test statistic of negative 1.77 and a p-value of 0.084. Now, a test statistic, a t-value of negative 1.77 is not that unusual, but remember our significance level is pretty high. It's 10%. And our p-value says that we have an 8.4% probability of observing this sample given that the consultant is right and that the mean will be $130. So the p-value is below the significance level of 0.01. So our conclusion, we're going to say since the p-value is below alpha equaling 0.10, we reject the null hypothesis and conclude that there is enough evidence to suggest that the average daily fees collected is not equal to $130. And then for part B, it's asking us to compare this conclusion to what we found when we did this problem in chapter 14. And in chapter 14, and if you don't have it, you can always run the t-interval again. So we would go to stat, tests, and choose t-interval. Again, all the information is already going to be loaded since you did the t-test here. And when you got that interval, when we did this interval, we got 122.2 and 129.8. Notice that the entire interval is below the null hypothesis of 130. And therefore, so we're going to say the interval does not contain the null hypothesis of mu equal 130. And therefore, since the interval does not contain this, it supports the idea of rejecting the null hypothesis.